Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned into the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and probably my most favorite guest year to date, all the way from North Carolina, TShane Johnson, Marine, loan officer, best-selling author, sales and performance coach, and world record holder for most push-ups in 1 hour. TShane, welcome to the Loan Officer Podcast, and thank you for taking the time to be on the show and lay down an episode with us.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm glad that 50 I sent you allows you to make me sound way cooler than I really am.
Yeah, $50 goes a long way. I promise you that. No, so here we are. We are still at the annual Florida Mortgage Bankers Association convention. JC and I laid down an episode on day 1. Here we are on day 4. You're keynoting today, right? You're speaking in a couple hours from now.
Yep.
And as an opportunist, I saw your name come up, and full disclosure, I'm like, I'm not familiar with TShane. Then I started reading your freaking bio, and I was like, bro, are you serious? Like, and by the way, when I laid you out, I did it in order of importance to me.
Sure.
Marine. Awesome. Thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
Loan officer. Okay, we speak the same language, right?
Right.
Sales and performance coach. That's why we do this show. Right? We do this show to educate, inspire, hopefully entertain. Then you're an author, and it's just cool factor. The Guinness World Record holder for most push-ups in an hour, and I understand you're getting ready to go for a new record.
I am, yeah. So about a month ago, I broke the world record for the most push-ups in 1 hour.
And how many was that?
That was 3,050.
Okay.
And the record was 2,919. So blew past that, crushed it. We actually did 2 simultaneous records. So the first record was the 1 hour, and then we continued to go on to the 12 hour. The 12 hour was 19,325, and I did 16,550. So I fell short of that record. Though I'll give it to myself, nothing wrong with doing over 16,000 push-ups.
No.
But, so now on November 10th of this year, which is the Marine Corps birthday, we're going to rally a bunch of Marines together, and we're going to break that 32-year world record.
Where are you going to do that, at your home gym, or where are you going to do it?
Yeah, we are. Well, we're working on that right now. So we're starting to kind of develop and put that together. We've had some different ideas when we're working with the Marine Corps League detachment. That really the idea behind it is though that's just really just the hook. We're trying to raise money for the Marine Corps League, support the young Marines. They have a great leadership program that helps those that are in high school, and they give scholarships that help them go through a leadership academy. And they were a little underfunded this past year with COVID. So each year I tried to help a different cause. This year we're going to support them. I've never done a full Marine one, which I'm really excited about. So that's why we do a Marine Corps birthday, support the Marine Corps League, support young Marines, and raise as much money as possible to help the group.
So for my personal knowledge, how would I go and support this cause through your push-up challenge that you're getting ready to, or not even a challenge, it's a challenge, but it's a world record that you're trying to break. How would one be involved financially to donate?
Yeah, so we're currently right now looking for sponsors. Everybody, you can reach out to me at info@TShaneJohnson.com. Shoot me an email. You can give me a call on my cell, 704-574-6611. Shoot me a text, whatever, doesn't matter. And if you'd like to get involved to support the veteran community, I'll give you an example. Our last world record had over 270 million media impressions, and it went worldwide. We were on every major news outlet, media outlet. It garnered quite a bit of attention. People really got their arms wrapped around that, and we raised a lot of funds for the National Purple Heart Honor Mission up in New York. So if you want to get involved, you can reach out to me. All my social media is at TShane Johnson, so LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And we'd love, the more support, the better.
Awesome. Count on us supporting you.
Absolutely.
So let me know after the show through TLOP how the Loan Officer Podcast can really get involved.
Of course.
Love everything that you stand for, and it's just so cool.
Yeah.
Like I was a kid who I bought the Guinness books. Remember when they came out? They were hard copied with like full color inside. Yeah. And every year through the Scholastic book program through school, like my mom wanted me to read like real books, like The Hobbit, or even Little House on the Prairie. I'm like, no, Mom, I want the Guinness Book of World Records. She's like, but that's not like a novel. I'm like, I don't know, but it's really cool.
It is cool.
So cool factor alone, but the cause, right? It's the cause that you stand up for that is just absolutely instrumental. So yes, I would we won't bore the viewers and listeners with that. We'll definitely make sure that JC throws up your phone number, throws up your tags. We'll get it on YouTube, which, by the way, you threw out some handles of our own. We are at the Loan Officer Podcast for anyone who's tuning in for the first time, whether that's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, at the Loan Officer Podcast. If you ever want to connect with me individually, I am Dustin Owen on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably the best way to connect with me. John Coleman's going to have a website built here in the next month or two. It's going to be tloponline.com. So a lot of the content that we push out, we're going to have more supporting tools on the website. So stay tuned and check that out. And Spotify, Apple, Google Play, anywhere you can find a podcast, YouTube at the Loan Officer Podcast. Whew. All right. We got all of that done. And I'm trying to think of like where we want to go. We have like a half hour here that you and I, what part of your awesomeness do we want to introduce first? Do we want to start with the work you do with the veteran community? Do we want to start with you're still an active MLO, right? You still originate loans. If an MLO right now was sitting in front of you, what are the 2 or 3 bits of advice that you would give that person as they launch their career? Let's start with that.
Yeah,
Let's lean in a little bit into your loan officer. Then I do want to talk about the speaking you do, the money you raise, and how you do it as you walk across America. So make sure we circle back to that. But first and foremost, for the loan officers tuning in, from someone with a lot of experience and success in our industry, if you're sitting down with someone newer in the industry, what are 2 or 3 tips of advice that you would give them?
I think, when you name all of the things, for some reason in my head, I don't think of them as each types of my business model. They really kind of all go together, and I think that's the hardest thing to explain when you're interviewed or when you're as a consultant or a coach. People say, "Man, you do all of these things." Like, well, they really kind of all go together, especially when we finance homes. So when I'm working with my new reps, I always say, look, the most important thing, set aside from the day-to-day transaction and the things that you need to do in order to be successful from a business perspective, it really comes down to the branding and understanding what we do in our business. We finance the freedoms that so many sacrifice or die for. And I think our industry's hasn't done a really good job of really kind of understanding that. And when you get ready to get in this business, defining your why, like Simon Sinek says, is extremely important. And it's really hard for us because, we deliver these cheesy taglines as a company. We try to develop a brand. You got somebody that's new that doesn't have a brand. They're not on all the social media. They're not on all these things. They don't have a podcast. They don't have a speaker background. They haven't died. They haven't done all these things. So they're like, how do I develop a brand behind something? And I think really it's defining your why. Like when you get into the business and you're starting off at it, hopefully you've got a great coach and a great mentor. You're working for a great organization. And sometimes that takes trial and error, like in anything else, like relationships. You start to understand, a company and their relationship and how they do business and how you'll work with them. I think the key component is sitting down. What I do with my reps, I sit down and say, let's define your purpose and why, your personal and your professional why. First and foremost, you need to understand what we do here. We finance the American dream. And when I say the American dream, I mean what our forefathers came to this country, laid down the Constitution and said, this is the foundation of our country. This is what we want to do. This is what we believe in. And we're willing to fight and die for it. And once we kind of get that wrapped around our head, and I think we can kind of connect the two, we start to understand that we're not just people who handle, a non-tangible financial transaction. We're people who actually give the piece of the American dream that so many of us have died and fought for and continue to fight for. And again, you've got to relay that passion, your why, to their why, and make them understand that. Once they can get their heads wrapped around that, then from there, when they go to deliver their product or they go to deliver whatever they're going to sell or their interest rate or whatever, it is from a sense of passion that is so driven that if they don't get that customer, they're going to feel like they let their country down. And I think that's an important thing.
I love
you can
that.
Deliver that message.
You let your country down.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a total guilt trip. I mean, when you're talking to them and I'm communicating my LOs, I'm saying every time you got to know, you let a man die on the field. You've got to remember, no man's left behind, no man or woman's left behind. We've got to engage. We've got to get out there. We've got to get back in and attack it again. And again, I think that's why, us veterans have a leg up on sometimes when it comes to that, because we take things to such an extreme, whereas the normal person may not think that. So once my reps get their head wrapped around that, we define the why. I don't let them do anything else until they understand when it comes to coaching a business or coaching a real estate agent or a loan officer or whomever, let's define your purpose and why. Because when it gets really tough, and it will get really tough, you need to understand why you're here, and you need to deliver your passion in such an energy that they feel it. The funny thing is I think it's a lot easier now selling loans than it was a long time ago, because credibility. People can search me. People can say, "Oh, well, this guy, I'm legit. I'm not just some Joe Smo, my tidy whities, eating Cheerios in the basement." And I when I sell a loan or I offer the opportunity to give someone financing, I do it from like a motivational speaker. I'm like, what are you doing? This is financial freedom for you, and I go into and I get such on a soapbox with it. Most of the time, people go, "Wow, your energy is just so like this is." I think it's an emotional purchase sometimes more than it is the price side. And I'm like, look, I've done so much for this country. I continue to do it. It is my obligation and responsibility to make sure I continue to do that. And it's for you. This is for you. And more importantly, it's for Bob, Joe, Lisa, all those over 200 plus years that have died, that if I don't do this and I don't help you, I'm doing this a disservice.
I love that. And that's something we teach throughout our 100 plus episodes. It's like you and I know this, but I don't know if the people we serve, our fellow countrymen and countrywomen, understand the number one and number two way to become wealthy in our country is through homeownership. I mean, that has been proven time and time again, something along the lines of homeowners are 70 times more wealthy than non-homeowners. Right. And then when I teach younger loan officers and we use this platform to get our messaging out, like if you are going to enter into this industry, you have to be a coach first and a teacher second. Like you have to coach and teach people. That's why you're doing this. Like, yes, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the money is fantastic if you're good. Sure. But you got to know your why. And that why is what's going to help you get through the sucky days, because there is a lot of suck you have to embrace in order to push through to get someone from never owning a home to owning their first home. And there's certain pitfalls that you're going to fall into and you have to climb your way out. But I love having someone of your caliber basically echo that, but I love your language because you're coming at it from a Marine standpoint who, you look at the people who sign up, they volunteer, right? We haven't had a draft in over 40 plus going on 50 years. Right. So anyone who signs up, they're signing up saying, I want to serve my country. I want to, as you were telling me, and I would maybe ask you to share it with the audience, I'm willing to go into a more socialist career in order to protect capitalism, right? Can you talk about that from what it means to serve your country and then to come out and then try to find work outside of the military, and how maybe this industry can rally behind people like you who served the country, didn't make a full career out of it, and now want to transition to a non-government job?
Yeah, 100%. So, I think the one thing that you've got to relate to the consumer and to your employees and to people around you is that the average American, I'm a stock, right? So the average American pays tax dollars to invest into this stock, a complete stranger, just like you would a stock. But in a stock, you get the opportunity to kind of do research on the organization. You get to vet it. But an average person doesn't get to vet me, right? So they invest their tax dollars to pay my salary for me to go out and to be able to defend them so they can continue to live the life of freedom that our country provides. So I have an obligation as a veteran when I get out to give that return back to them more and more every single day. And, when you go into the military, you got to remember it is a very socialist platform. It is a platform where if I'm a guy downrange and I'm part of a special operations unit and I'm out in the field and I'm taking gunfire, I'm going to receive the same amount of pay as someone who's in the rear in the gear.
If you're an E5 is an E5.
100%.
Right, an O2 is an O2.
Yeah, there's small differences between hazard pay and other things that happen, combat pay. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to make the same amount of money. And again, that's, we all wear the same uniform. We all think the same way. We all have to follow the same rules.
Same haircuts.
100%. It's a total socialist platform. And then I get out to go defend a capitalist platform. But unfortunately, I end up falling into the socialist portion of it, where I continue to do that same thing because, really, we as I'll keep it on the industry since we're an industry podcast. We as an industry, we don't reach out and say, we've got the golden goose to your financial freedom, right? Like thank you. Like, I don't need you to thank me by writing me some check so I don't become homeless. I need you to employ me so that I can make millions to get more veterans, to help more, to do more. And that's what capitalism is all about. You know, that's what our business allows us the opportunity to do, this amazing amount of financial freedom that we can give these veterans. I mean, I'll tell you, look, the number one reason why 22 veterans a day commit suicide is because of camaraderie loss. See, when we get out, you got to remember the Marine Corps, just in the Marine Corps, I can't speak for the other branches, make up 0.001% of the total population. So when we get out, we dissipate out all into these different locations and we don't have a bond. And then we try to find that bond through different things. But it's so hard to find because we're so unique in our thought process. Like, you know, people always say, you know, the best way to tell a Marine is don't worry about it, they'll tell you. Yeah. You know, we're very proud of, we're cult-like following. We're very proud of that. But when we get together, it's dangerous. So when you can take and put us all in one environment and you can allow us the freedoms to be who we are and produce that, I mean, over 243 years, we've never lost a battle. We win. That's what we do. That's what the Marine Corps does. We win. So now imagine 25 Marines, 50 Marines, 100 Marines come up against your organization, right? Belleau Wood is a proven example of that. You know, 10,000 Marines beat 100,000, right? Like, this is just what we do. So you put us in a room where we're on the phones. You put us in the room where we have to dominate a market. You put us on there where we can go and absolutely crush an entire industry. All you got to do is open the door. We'll follow, we'll lead, we'll do all the things that you want us to do. And on top of that, you'll pay us a bunch of money and we'll love it. And now we'll go and get more of our brothers, you know, and we'll go and pull them all in and do it more. So it is an amazing platform, but we do have to go through understanding what is a true follower, going through that socialist platform, and then we get out and hopefully have the opportunity to
yeah. So for the mortgage managers, those are in a hiring role, a recruiting role, not just mortgage, real estate, financial advisors, accountants, right? Anyone who's in an industry right now that needs talented people, are you tuned in and turning to ex-military? And if they're not, I'm hearing you today say you need to.
Yeah.
You need to, and here's why. And the why is, not only are you getting someone with phenomenal skill sets, but you're also getting, you're paying it back to your country by employing someone who gave so much to their country. It's a win-win. I mean, you're helping that ex-military elevate themselves financially. You may be giving them a sense of purpose. You may be finding their new group, right? Because you're used to being a part of a group or a platoon or some kind of a infantry. I guess I call them groups. What's a better word besides a group or a platoon when you're using military language?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that's fine. You can use unit, platoon, squad.
Unit, squad. Yeah. There we go. Those are the words I was searching for. But no, you're also potentially preventing someone from going down a deep, dark hole.
Sure.
Right? What are ways? I'm a hiring manager, right? And I have a platform where we actually hire people with no experience. I prefer, especially when it comes to loan officers anymore, I prefer to bring in a great person and then train them to the skill set versus bringing in the skill set and hoping that their persona matches what we do well. What would be a good way for me, someone who's based in Orlando, Florida, but has access to hiring throughout the entire country, what would be a good way for me to get involved in the veteran community?
Yeah, you know, you bring up a really great point, and I'll back it like 1,000%. So the largest dominating corporation in the entire world is the United States military. They bring in all green people.
Yeah.
Right? And they train them from the ground up. So that is a tried and true proven tactic that just goes to show that with the, you know, selecting the right people and the right training and the right leadership, the success is above and beyond. You know, I guess selfish plug would be, you know, bring me in. I think like when you do a movie, you know, as veterans, when we're watching a movie, we can always tell if the movie didn't have some type of military leader on the ground, because it's like, nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. You know, and then you start to realize, like, when you get into it, and a hiring manager, unfortunately, though your passion and drive may be there, and you may want to support your country, and you're like, man, I love you as a veteran, you will never be able to speak our language, and it's such a different language that there's no bond or trust there. So they're going to trust. They'll go to Starbucks and work at Starbucks because the hiring manager at Starbucks is a veteran, and he'll shoot the breeze and say, what unit were you with, and where would you? Oh yeah, great. And then
what was your MLS?
Because I'm not looking for a job. You understand? Yeah. I'm looking for camaraderie. I'm looking to connect, to keep alive, to start going from a dark place. Because I don't understand the concept of money yet.
Yeah.
Right. I don't understand that I can make this kind of money. Matter of fact, I don't even think I'm worthy. right? That's just general public. As a speaker, most people don't even think they're worthy to be successful. So as a veteran, you think, well, I'm a server. You know, like you got to remember these people serve. So it's not about income for them at first because they haven't been taught or understand the concept of it. They're service-based people, right? They're servant leadership. So they don't care. They're willing to die for you. I am willing to die for you for $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right? You won't even go meet a client for $1,000 a month. Right?
Correct. Yes.
Right. So,
No.
so think about the concept of that. So, you know, as a hiring manager and as an organization, you better get your stuff together and have the right people in place. So when those veterans come in ready to go, you're able to articulate the message in a way that they get it and feel like they're part of something. And then once you've got that, right, which is what we starve as managers to try to get our loan officers or our people, our employees to do, is to try to follow us and trust in us. Once you've got that, compensation is irrelevant, right? It really is. I mean, people work for, you know, a lot more than a paycheck. You know, they want to be a part of something. They want to believe in something. The military does a great job, especially the Marine Corps, of making you believe something, a creed that you are willing to die for, right? So we're at a whole other level. So when we go to sit down with you and you tell me, oh, you can make this money, you can make this business, I'm going to call BS.
Yes.
Because I'm like, okay, what's the scam? What are you going to have me doing? Oh, it's a commission, right? Especially in our industry, insurance sales. Like, okay, what is this? Because we get, all the medical device companies come after us, because they think, oh, well, these guys are working. Whereas our industry is not like that. We actually will pay you. We actually will get you a license. I mean, the state of Florida alone, I think Waterstone, you guys are like chartered, you don't have a
Correct.
license
Yep.
requirement. Yeah. So, but the state of Florida is an example where the state will waive all licensing fees for veterans.
That's fantastic. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And we actually did a show where we brought on a instructor who instructs the NMLS 20-hour safe course.
Yep.
And I learned a ton from Bill when he was on the show, but I didn't know that.
100%. State of Florida will waive it. If you're a disabled veteran, they'll waive all fees each year. Employers get a $9,600 tax credit for anybody that happens to be, I think it's 10% or more disabled. If the veteran has been unemployed for at least 6 months.
How many employers do you think
They
don't know that?
I just sat with a major company last week doing a consulting thing where they kind of talked about doing the same thing in Charlotte, and they had no clue. Their comptroller had no clue.
Yeah,
They didn't even know.
because it is something that when you're filing your taxes, you probably have to submit for it. So
Yeah.
if you're not submitting for it, if you don't know, and they don't know, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'll speak on behalf of Waterstone.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess with a very high probability that I'm right that we don't take advantage of this, and it's just because how many departments does the HR team speak to the accounting team? Right? Is CFO sitting down with VP of HR? Let alone does VP of HR even know how many of the new hires were ex-military, let alone if they're a disabled vet.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that is a service I'm assuming you offer, right? That's something where you go into a
Correct.
company as a consultant and
Yep.
you sit down and you lay it all out for them.
Absolutely,
Okay.
100%. But to kind of play more on that, you got to remember though, in our industry, and I'll just I'll be transparent. It's my personality. We just don't care because most of the time, our production as bigger organizations, VA only makes up 10% of that. Right? So if we get to do a little VA loan, we'll go, hey, I helped a veteran today. And we post it on social media and say, wow, what a win. But it only makes up a small percentage of our overall production. So since it makes a small percentage of our overall production, we don't really pay attention to it much, especially on the hiring side. We do it because it's great to post on social media. But if we actually developed a division, right, if companies really started to focus on and truly wanted to give back in the right way, then they would have this industry knowledge and they would know these different things. I mean, you got a veteran that's been unemployed for 6 months that's trying to, get on. Even if they're not disabled, you get like a $2,400 tax deduction. Voc Rehab, the military, the VA, the government will pay a company money to put the veteran through a training program. So if it's a full 12-week program, and let's say that program costs this amount of money, the VA will pay the company that money in addition to giving the veteran a housing stipend each month, just like if they were going to full-blown college. I mean, they want you to hire, and they're willing to pay you for it. And in our business, I mean, the first thing when you sit down with a company, I swear I get so frustrated because we talk about how much money we make until it's time to invest in our business or our people. Then it's like, oh, well, that sounds like a lot of money. Well, yeah, it's a lot of money, Yeah. I mean, the largest expense walks on two legs. But if the government is willing to subsidize that, where you're just about capital free, or you can double up and really do the right thing, and they can make some good money, they're not starving during that training period. They're not going back to their husband and wife and saying, I got this really great job. I hope to make some money. And then you've got your sales cycle, right? Depending on how fast the turn times are, from 30 to 45 to 60 to 90 days, whatever you're sold on, to try to get that commission check. And you're in there grinding all day long in this business, which, 7 days a week, 24/7, people have got access to you. It's one of those things. You're going back to your husband and wife who has experienced deployments, has experienced the trials and tribulations and the troubles that have been why they've served, and they're getting out to kind of go into that same platform thinking they were going to get a little bit more time and freedom. You better pay them. I mean, look, happy wife, happy life, right?
Yes.
Like, she better be the mall MVP if you're going to be gone all the time.
Yeah.
And this business allows us that opportunity. When you think of it from the mortgage side, if we did a better job of being able to develop and build that, we would take a 22-a-day veteran suicide down to zero. I mean, look, I don't care what anybody says. Being unhappy or happy is a mindset, but your bank account with money in it makes things a lot easier to change that mindset.
I will tell people this from firsthand experience. Money doesn't buy happiness, but money takes 3 of the major stressors off of your shoulders, at which point it's easier to then focus on things that may make you happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for me to go to counseling when I can A, afford it, right? We'll start there. And B, when the 2 other stressors that would have been on my plate, which have been financial, so I would have been working more and I couldn't afford it. Right. I didn't have the time. Now I can.
Yep.
It's easy for me to start reading a book that's going to make me a better person if, again, I'm not staying up late at night trying to figure out how I'm going to keep the lights on, or I'm not working that second or third job, right? So this industry, in many industries, financial services, we don't have to say loan officer or mortgage banking, right? It can go real estate, it can go title, it can go insurance, it can go, so many different facets of financial services give someone with a little bit of drive and the ability to coach and teach an opportunity to make income that some people have to go to college for 8 years,
Sure.
right? Doctors make that kind of money.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a doctor. You can have no degree, a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree,
Yep.
and you can build your own business under the umbrella of a much larger organization.
Sure. Well, we don't make our business sexy.
No.
There's nothing about our delivery of our business that makes it sexy. I mean, it's not, we're again, it's so funny watching this business because all this money that comes through and we still have not adapted with times. You've got these smaller companies that sell, I always love referencing Starbucks because you take a $5 product that people consume each day that's really probably more of a milkshake than it really is a coffee. And they spend all this money on it and they buy this product and they do it. And this company does a better job of hiring these high-level leadership veterans than we do in our industry. Yet we could provide massive amount of financial freedom where they could work 5 years like nobody wants to live the rest of your life like nobody can. They could be done by 2:30 and spend time with their family. They could actually take these children that are because I'm going to tell you all the work that I've done with homelessness and abuse and all starts back with us. It starts with us, relatively middle class to upper class people who feel like we have to spend so much time on our business and be these phenomenal CEOs of our people that we forget to be CEOs at home. And then those children end up having the money to be able to get into these drugs and get into the wrong places because the intention's not put on them. Next thing you know, they're out on the streets and they become a byproduct of our lack of ability to focus on buying time versus saying, oh, we want to go focus on. And look, we'll grow people in our business and we'll spend so much time on little Susie, who's our new employer, and how we want to do that. And then we'll realize our kids growing up behind us that we're not even paying attention to. Our industry can combine both buying time and financial freedom, done the right way, coached the right way. And again, your military has already experienced all this stuff. They've already went through all these troubles. I think it's our obligation, our responsibility to be able to, what you and I have experienced in this business, to be able to give back to them and say, listen, you don't have a choice. Here's what's going to happen. You're gonna work these 6 months. You're going to bust your butt, and then what's going to happen? You're going to lock a loan a day. I tell my people all the time. There's only one rule I have in my business: a lock a loan a day. If you do it by 10 a.m., you're gone. That's it. One a day. You don't need to do anything else. There's nothing else you need to do. People have got all these, manage your pipeline, your calls, your structure management. That's a bunch of BS because this business is going to hit you like Mike Tyson. What you've got to do is lock a loan a day. I don't care where, when, or how you get it. Just one a day.
Dude, I love that you just said that. I could have swore I paid you back the $50 plus an extra $50 because we just laid down an episode that we titled 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 5.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right? And it's like, no, I tried to boil it down.
Yeah.
And it came from, I had loan officers I was coaching internally that were just kind of had like paralysis by analysis and they're overthinking it. I'm like, just strip it down.
Yeah.
Did you talk to someone today who wants a loan? Did you meet with someone who can refer you loans? Did you schedule an appointment with someone that can, down the road, if you build a good relationship, keep on referring you loans? And did you show gratitude, meaning did you do a handwritten thank you note and tell someone thank you?
Right.
Because if you can get that done by 10:30, yes, whether you want to go play poker, whether you want to go get a facial, whether you want to hit the gym, right? It's yours to do because you won that day.
Yeah.
So for you to hear you say, boil it down even more, like, hey, did you lock a loan?
That's it.
Because we get paid, right? You have to understand that at least 80% of those loans that you lock are going to close.
Yeah.
So if you're locking 5 loans a week, that's 4 closings a week. That's 16, and depending on your comp plan and depending on your setup and your business model, that's anywhere from $120,000 a year to, damn near $500,000 a year in terms of personal income. And I love that you focused on the time. Yep. And it's not just the time to your family, it's the time to your community.
Sure.
Right? Like, focus. I'm a big believer, focus on your community. If you can make your community better, then ultimately you're going to make the world better.
Sure.
So that's more time that you can give back. So I can go all over the place with this. I didn't ask you 2 questions about the becoming the world record holder for push-ups, but I think the audience is going to need to know this.
Right.
Okay. So although you failed at the 12-hour and you're getting ready to dominate it here, right, in a few months, but you did conquer the 1 hour. What was your recovery like? Just quickly, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 was like, holy cow, it sucked terribly. And 1 was like, oh man, I was totally prepared for that. I drank a Pedialyte and I was done.
Yeah, no,
Which
definitely
one?
Not. It was 10. Life was horrible. I was like the Ace Ventura pet detective in 2 when he gets shots with the darts and he's like running and his arms aren't moving. It was pretty bad, man. I mean, I actually have broken 3 world records. And the push-up one versus the 1 mile run with the 100-pound pack, it was just so much on my body. And it wasn't the 1 hour. The 1 hour, I blasted right through that one. I was like a boss. Like I finished up with it, and I was like 3,050. I was like, "What's up? Let's roll." But doing 16,500 for another 11 hours, that took quite a bit of a toll. And again, you can't really train for that. But yeah, I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't take my shirt off. I couldn't do. I mean, it was brutal, man.
For like how many days?
Well, for 4 days,
Wow.
I couldn't even move my arms. Matter of fact, I had a consultant meeting on Tuesday. So I did it on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I met with a mortgage company on Tuesday. And I remember like sitting there and I was just holding my arms the whole time. The guy was like, "I can't even believe you're in here, man." I was like, "Oh, well, life goes on. We got to keep going, And, but I just now got the feeling back in a couple of my fingers. These 2 are still gone. I still don't have any feeling here, but I'm just now starting to kind of get a little bit of the feeling back in the tips.
Now, you're a thick dude, so I think I know the answer to this question, but David Goggins has the pull-up record.
So tired of hearing about David Goggins.
So, hey, shout out to one of my best friends. Guy's name is Jason Ware. He goes by JJ. And I was having drinks with him last night, and he's in town right now for a different conference. And I was telling him about you. I'm like, dude, I'm so jacked up to meet this guy. And I do push-ups. He's like, Goggins has that record. And no, Goggins does not have that record.
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't go down that route, but
Navy SEALs always getting all the credit.
He's leaner.
No, listen, hey, the guy's a stud. It's funny, people reference that a lot. We have a lot of respect for the Navy SEALs, but I was battalion recon, so we were in the same type of community. And of course, Marine Corps, we're always, we're bigger, better, badder, stronger.
There you go.
Yeah.
No chance of you chasing the pull-up record.
No, I wish. You know what? I used to be. That was my thing in the Marine Corps, but unfortunately, due to my hand, I can't hold the bar long enough to be able to do it. So
yeah, we guys and girls, everyone tuned in. You have to check out his website. What is your website again?
TShaneInspires.com.
Okay, his story is badass. We're not going to go into this on today's show, but you died 3 times.
Yeah.
On the way to a hospital after a really bad incident that happened to you in your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
Probably helped shape you and in terms of who you are today. You recovered. You were in the Marine Corps at the time. You continued serving your country.
I did.
But it left you with some long-term permanent damage, and one of those is you lack feeling in your right hand.
Yeah, I'm 90% disabled veteran, and on 60% of disability in my right arm.
No, what are the 2 other world records that you hold?
The fastest 1 mile carrying a 100-pound pack.
How fast was that?
I did it in 13 minutes.
Wow.
And I did it at ODU, and I did it in the middle of my my run from New York to Orlando for 1,600 miles.
So that's where I want to go next. I want to talk about your speaking engagements, but it's more about how you travel to your speaking engagements. I would like to just reference your books because I want to catch one and I want to read it myself, and I want you to tell me which one to start with. And And then I'm just curious right now, how do you pick push-ups? How do you pick, hey, there's a record out there for who can run a mile the fastest while carrying a 100-pound pack on them. Yeah. How do you pick those? How do you come up with them? Do you have a committee that helps you out?
I'm not that fancy.
Is it a drinking game? Is it a drinking game in the
it's called
household?
the Hold My Beer committee. There's each one of them has kind of a sentimental meaning or, longer story to it that I'm sure we talk about all day. I mean, normally I run across the country. That's been my gig, and I do.
And you've done that how many times?
4 times.
Is it always east to west coast?
No.
Okay.
Like the last one before COVID, I ran from New York to Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, so down the East Coast. Sometimes I'll run across, or sometimes I ran in state here in Florida. I used to live here. I used to live in Windermere for quite some time. So.
Oh, you and Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
Nice.
BFFs.
I hope Elin didn't come after you with a golf club too.
No.
Okay.
She made me a bracelet.
Yeah.
It's. That turned out to be something, I don't know, that thing kind of blew up. It was really, really weird. As a speaker, I always think it's interesting as a speaker, you've got these high-paid profile speakers that come in, they wear suits, and, they put us in these great hotels and they do things. But inspiration is something that's needed throughout all of us, And when I was homeless for 2 years, what was great is I would have loved anything for a speaker to come in and inspire me that experienced the same things that I did. And speakers don't go into homeless shelters. They don't go into poverty-driven communities, right? They call them politicians because they want votes, and even the politicians won't do that. I thought it was interesting that they can't pay $100 a seat. They can't come and pay $300 in a room. They can't come and pay all these fees to come in and watch some knucklehead like me run my mouth. But they still need inspiration. And unfortunately, because they don't have the funds, people won't go there, or they feel uncomfortable. I've always just felt comfortable around everybody. I really don't care who they are, So the project was really to go into all these shelters. And because when you're homeless, let me tell you something, the first thing that you lose is your identity.
Not your ID card, meaning your self-identity.
Your self-identity, because people don't call you Jim, Bob, Lisa, or whatever. They call you homeless, right? So you lose your identity, and that's the thing that we hold on. That's the thing we're given the second we take that breath, right? The second we come out and when we take that breath, I am this person. And that sticks with us forever, right? Your name carries with you forever, no matter what. It's a powerful thing to have. And when you become homeless because you don't have all those things that we think is important in America, we completely eliminate and strip people from that. We call them a social security number and homeless, right? Assuming they even have one. So the idea behind that project was to get in there and say, you know what? Maybe you don't have access to a podcast. Maybe you don't have access to a speaker. Maybe you don't have that. I'm going to come in there and I want to speak to you. So one of my biggest requirements used to be, still is to this day, is that if somebody pays me to come speak, they also have to, I require that I go to a shelter and speak of their choice or within the community. And then I donate half of my proceeds from the speaker fee to that shelter. And the idea behind that is to say, listen, just because we're privileged and we've had the opportunity that we take advantage of doesn't mean others shouldn't hear our message or our word. And that's really what Hike Across America ended up becoming. I partnered with Clean the World here locally in Orlando. That project, we handed out over 10,000 hygiene kits to veterans. We spoke to, I can't tell you how many shelters. And look, I was on a radio interview last night and they were asking me, did anything bad happen? Yeah, we watched a guy get murdered. We got sprayed in a shelter by, a guy that was running from some drug guys. It's not a fun place to be in. But it doesn't mean they don't need inspiration.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe we created another story. I went to a shelter in Tallahassee where this kid, his mom was living in a homeless shelter. He was trying to be a boxer, and we sat down and he didn't have a father figure, and we sat for probably 40 minutes, man, and I sat with that kid. Let me tell you something. As I went across the country, he got so motivated. He was just enough to get in college that I'd check in with him, how you doing, how's stuff going, whatever. Like 2 years later, he had gotten this great job, was back in school, bought a home,
no way,
and got his mom out of the shelter. And it was like a whole article.
Yeah.
And when you see something like that and you make an impact like that, you don't have a choice, So Hike Across America was really about that. And we went in and we inspired a lot of great people, made an impact, saved a lot of people from a lot of bad things happening, and then it just it just became more and more and more.
Have you planned your next hike?
No, not yet. COVID really shut a lot of that stuff down. So right now, our main thing is hitting that, the world record for the 12-hour push-ups in November. And then next year, we'll kind of see. I think the hardest part is, because of being in the industry, is getting organizations like companies like, Lending Tree really, they support me a lot. They did a great job this past year. But getting these other mortgage companies to chip in and quit being so cheap and really giving back to the community. Because if it is about community, we take from the community all the time,
yes,
right? Like we really do in our industry. And we really need need to do a better job of. I always, I bash our industry a little bit. I kind of, I'm in it. I'm allowed to. I think it's a shame.
You've earned that right.
I think in the mortgage and real estate business, it's a shame that we don't do more in housing. We really don't. We really don't give back to the community as much as we should, and we take from it all the time. And these type of projects are really just me showing, trying to make a voice loud enough to say, listen, we provide homes for people and financing for people. Why are we not eliminating homelessness? It's ridiculous. We don't talk about it at conferences. We don't talk about, we talk about redlining.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about going into a community and targeting, but we don't talk about how we should actually be doing it. We've got a couple little where Wells Fargo screws over a bunch of veterans and then they go build a house. Ooh, thumbs up. That's not making an impact.
Yeah. The obligatory humanity, Habitat for Humanity. Yeah, it's the obligatory build.
Sure.
Right? You get together for 8 hours.
Here's our team. Here's some T-shirts. Yay.
Yeah.
We need to do a better job.
Which, by the way, Habitat for Humanity is a fantastic organization.
Sure.
We should be more involved. I
100%.
wasn't knocking Habitat there. I'm through my branches like mine, who in 13 years, twice we got together for a quote-unquote team outing for 6 hours, of which, of the 50 people in our local branch, there were 9 that signed up and there were 7 that showed up.
Yeah.
And it was for 6 hours once.
Yeah. But it's one of the greatest things that we can do as managers and leaders and owners of companies, because our transactions are not tangible. So we don't ever get to see it. We're really not a part of it a lot of times, especially now, especially if we start to grab bigger and bigger regions, it makes it more difficult. And look, for one, if we do a function, you're going.
Yes.
So you're not signing up anything. You will be there or you won't be with our company. It's just that simple. It's our responsibility to give back. So, the group, Habitat for Humanity is amazing. I think I'm more on our industry. I'm saying, we need to get our stuff together and start partnering with these groups and really start helping, the organizations and give back. Like right now, I just got nominated for Mr. Health and Fitness for Muscle and Fitness.
Oh, awesome.
And I think today was the last day. I'm number 1 in it right now. And they're raising funds to help disabled veterans with building homes for disabled veterans. And again, I'm just an advocate on all sides when it has to do with it, because if I went into that room today and I gave this speech, right, and I was able to rally the troops, the combined amount of net worth in that room, right,
Jesus,
between the organizations and the people alone,
billions. Billions.
We could absolutely, just locally in this area. Let me tell you something. In Orange County alone, Orange County here in Orlando, over 3,000 children are homeless or couch surfing. 3,000 teens, just in Orange County.
Yeah,
alone.
And as an industry, what are we doing for that?
What are we doing?
Yeah,
we're sitting in here, our really nice suits, doing podcasts.
Yes. 3 quick hitters. I never figured out what the third world record was.
That was the fastest marathon carrying a 100-pound pack.
Okay, time?
That one was 4.5 hours.
So, full disclosure for those people who are not marathon runners, as someone who recently got into quote-unquote running, that would be my goal, right? My goal would be somewhere between 4 and 4.5 without a 100-pound pack, right? So that's fantastic. So 3 world records. The 2 books. Did 2 books or 3 books?
3 books.
3 books. Titles?
Hike Across America, Be the Leader You're Meant to Be, and Keep Your Feet Moving.
Which was the hardest to write?
My first one, Hike Across America.
Yep.
Yeah.
James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, one thing he'll say, the first is always the hardest.
Sure.
Right, but once you write 1, it's a lot easier to write 2 and
Very
3.
much so.
Hike Across America, was that more of a like an autobiography of your experiences? Is that
it was more of an autobiography of some of the hike and some of my personal life growing up here in Florida. So the challenges that I faced, and then what I did is I basically tell a story and then relate that story to the reader to apply it to their life to be able to make their change.
Is that still your favorite because it was your first?
Yeah. Well, that's the one that talks about my accident, goes into a detail about the experiences of going through that. Growing up here in Florida, Florida is an interesting state. We're always on the news for all the wrong things between bath salts and alligators. So it's funny because some of those stories you would think are a little out there, I actually experienced. I grew up in Arcadia, so our river would flood. I used to swim to school in high school in the mornings to go to school because our property flooded 14. It was just crazy.
Was that
stuff.
the Peace River down there?
It is a Peace River, yeah. Yeah.
I heard it's beautiful.
It's absolutely gorgeous, but it floods like crazy. So, we grew up in a single wide trailer, probably 13 miles from town. I actually grew up in Gardner, but nobody knows where Gardner's at, so much less.
Yeah, I was going to say, not many people know where Arcadia is.
Yeah.
A good buddy of mine, shout out to Dan Knutson, his wife's from Arcadia.
Oh, nice.
But when they got married, we had to get married in Fort Myers, because I guess there's not that many wedding venues. So, okay, so hike across America, and then the next two?
Be the leader you're meant to be, and keep your feet moving.
What's keep your feet moving on?
Well, it basically is it's in the name of the book, so it's more of a personal development leadership book. In the military, we always say, always keep your feet moving, one foot in front of the other, so never ever stop. So in life, a lot of times we always taking pauses, and we're wondering why it takes us so long. In the military, no matter how tired you are, you can slow down. You can do whatever you want to, just don't stop. Always keep your feet moving. So the idea behind that book was, no matter what you're going through, what you're doing in life, just put one foot in front of the other and just keep on going.
I love that. People ask all the time, like, oh, Dio, you're going to do a marathon. How do you do it? I said, I put one foot in front of the other. Yeah. Like, it starts with, I don't care about my time.
Sure.
I just got to get one foot in front of the other. Eventually, I'm going to get those 26.2 miles in. Now, once I do it once, now I have a litmus. I have somewhere to gauge myself, and the next time is going to be maybe a little bit quicker, and the next time a little bit quicker, until eventually maybe I'm like, hey, I'm going to throw a 100-pound pack on my back and see what I can do.
Yeah, I don't recommend that.
No,
sucked, yeah.
No.
It's not fun.
My current BHAG is Big Hairy Audacious Goal, for those that don't follow that type of vernacular, would be an Ironman.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start with a half, because I'm pretty confident I could crank out a half in the shape that I'm in now. We can't say I would do it well, and I can't say it wouldn't suck, but I could do it.
Sure.
But to do a full, like that's going to be a 1 or 2 year training regimen just on my end. And I always love the personal challenges. I couldn't imagine doing 500 push-ups in an hour, let alone the number of push-ups that you did. The hikes, because you are going to continue doing the hikes. Is that like once you get through COVID, once you get through breaking another world record, so now you're going to hold 4, when you do the 12-hour push-up record, when do you anticipate starting? And can people join you on those?
Absolutely. So we've had a ton of people join. So I usually do it every single year, starting probably around September 11th to November 11th.
Good weather time.
Yep. So I do it 9/11 to Veterans Day.
Okay.
And I'll go through and during that course of the time, depending on our cities and where we're at and what our goal is and our objective and our whoever we're raising funds for at that time. But yeah, people have joined me a lot. I mean, I've got I can tell you so many different stories, about the experiences. But absolutely, we do it. Weather is obviously the biggest reason. Just before the winter starts hitting and right after the summers, and then of course very iconic time points. Mm-hmm. It's we will definitely do it again. And we've learned each year. We've built on that. We've got a lot of things that we want to do. Again, it's just finding the right cause and the right organizations want to get behind it.
Yeah. If people want to find out more about that, just follow you on social.
Yes, sir.
and hit up your website, which we already plugged, and John will make sure he gets the cool graphics down at the bottom. So those that are on YouTube that are viewing, you'll be able to see it. If you're tuned in on like Spotify or Apple Podcast, you're probably going to have to pull over to the local Starbucks, get out a pen and paper, and click rewind a couple times so you can make sure you get Shane's phone number. You can make sure you get the website written down properly.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you this, like, I'm all in. I want to come walk with you.
Sure.
I'm going to throw this out. I'm a little bit hesitant, but I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. So we get requests where loan officers are like, oh, Dio, do you coach? And I'm like, I do as a part of my job. Like, that's something that Waterstone Mortgage pays me to do.
Right.
So I coach those loan officers that work under our umbrella. But I haven't coached loan officers outside of the corporate umbrella that I'm a part of, and it has not been due to the lack of ability. It's just kind of been lack of bandwidth.
Sure.
But if you can help me find this, I would love to find 4 veterans that I could put in a coaching group together, and I'll coach them for a year, those that are looking to enter into this mortgage industry. So preferably somebody who is 2 years or less in the industry. It'll probably benefit a little bit better if they're more in my wheelhouse. Like, I know you as a loan officer are more consumer direct.
Yep.
And what I've mastered and done really well in my career is more how do you go out and build referral relationships with realtors and builders and CPAs, et cetera. But if you can work with me on that, I'll coach 4 veterans for 1 year at obviously no charge. We'll do a group call for 1 hour every 2 weeks as my way to give back. But I want to follow you. I would love to come and walk with you for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, raise money, go into homeless shelters, try to give back. It's phenomenal. I mean, kudos to you and thank you. You know, the world records are cool, and I'm pretty sure the world records are your way to A, push yourself, but B, I think more importantly, raise awareness.
Yeah, and I'll I know we're getting close on time, and I'll kind of leave you with this because you hit a couple of points, and of course we don't have the time to really talk about it. But I mean,
honestly, we have until noon because you go on at noon.
Yeah.
I did tell my son I would make his volleyball game today.
I don't want to be that guy. I think I'll kind of leave it with this with the audience. People see all these things in the titles, and being on Men's Health and Esquire and Varney and Fox and all of these things. For one, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So there's a lot of people behind me that have allowed me the opportunity to be on that platform and have supported me. That's first and foremost. I don't do this by myself. There's a lot of great people on my team, a lot of people behind me that support me. But for those of you that are spiritual or not spiritual, when I died the third time, I had a conversation with God that was a responsibility given to me for the rent that is due as life, right? And so when I break a world record, or when I'm doing 16,000 plus push-ups, or I'm running across America, and like during that hike across America, I ran ultras. I did 40 miles, so I'd run 22 miles to an ultra event, then I'd run 40 miles in the ultra, running 62 miles that day. And I finished like in the top 8 out of 40 when I did it.
Wow.
Time. And I had a small little pack on like 30 pounds that time. And the difference is not because I'm some type of athletic guy. I mean, I'll eat you out of house and home, but it was because I know that no matter how far I push myself, that moment where you're going through something bad in life, or your physical, your body's stressed, and you're like, man, I don't think I could take it anymore. I know that no matter how bad that got, that if something happened, I'm going to a great place.
Yeah.
So I have a competitive advantage over most people, right? Because no customer is going to say something to me that's going to offend me, that's going to be any worse than what I've been through. No run is going to be painful enough to be able to endure what I went through. None of these things are going to impact me the same way as it will someone else, because I know that God has given me this opportunity and chance, and that I know that if all else fails, there's this amazing place that I'm going to get the opportunity to go. So I don't want people to think like, I'm a David Goggins and I've just got all this built up. It's not that. I shared a conversation with one of the most powerful people, well, I say powerful beings, right? Yeah. And I've been blessed to have that opportunity, and it just allows me to have that little bit more of a competitive edge.
I always think of God as an energy.
100%.
Like it's a ball of energy, and it allows me to wrap my head around it probably easier, and probably share it with people across the world.
Sure.
And not just in one particular sector or country.
Yeah. You don't want to title it because it's different for all people.
Yep.
For me, it was a subconscious conversation. It wasn't necessarily like a being, it was really that conversation and the warmth I felt of knowing that everything would be okay if I chose to not live.
Well, it's interesting. When you were sitting there talking, one of my staples or go-tos is rock bottom's a good place to start,
100%.
And sometimes it's the best place to start.
It is the best place.
You in so many instances are fortunate that you got to experience rock bottom, right? Because you now have a perspective that even I don't have.
Right.
And then you dying 3 times. It was the same night or the same series of days when that incident happened that you died, or did you have
the same day?
Same day.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a new lease on life.
Sure.
Like, you are literally on bonus time at this point.
Yeah.
I have my mother was diagnosed with like a rare autoimmune disease and lupus. Mm-hmm. And she told me this later in life. Like, her conversation was, let me see my kids through high school, then you can take me.
Sure.
And she's been in remission for like 30 years, and it's been amazing. But as a kid, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Right? I never knew that when my dad was like, hey, hon, did you take your pills today? I had no idea. It could have been the birth control pill for all I knew.
Right.
Like, you're 8 or you're 18 and you're clueless. But to be able to see how my mom has lived her life, getting ready to celebrate her 50th wedding anniversary, she just has a certain calm about her. She's like, look, I got you and your sister not only out of high school, but into college, which my sister and I were both first generation college graduates in our family.
Right.
But she has that perspective that, again, I don't have that, let's call it an opportunity to have. How about this? Let's leave it on this. One of the questions I love to ask is, what do you wish was taught to you earlier in life, that if you could go back and you could talk to Shane Johnson when he was 16, 18, or 22, that, now here you are a decade or two older than that, what do you wish was taught to you at an earlier age if someone who is younger is tuning in today that you could present to them?
Yeah, I've been asked that before, and I know how you want me to answer that question. But unfortunately for me, my personality, the way I am, there isn't one single thing that I'd want my life to have changed or wish differently. You'd asked me in my early 20s, I probably would have been a little more angry and frustrated at life and said, hey, this is what I want. But, now in the age I am, last Friday I got to watch my 6-year-old daughter go through a recital. And every parent at some point has probably experienced it and went through it. But
dance recital?
Yeah, dance recital.
Oh yeah, I'm a dance dad.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you something, man. I had I not fought and went through the things that I went through, I would have never been able to share that experience. My daughter is my best friend. I mean, we are, for now, anyways. We are everything, and it's the most amazing feeling in the world to have the love that you have for a little person. And I'm so proud of her every single day. And I felt like if I had any kind of regrets or changes, that she wouldn't be here. So I am, for God, I'm very thankful for the life He gave me. Though I've been through a lot of struggles, now I can look back and at that moment, sitting there and watching this beautiful little being stand on the stage and be in all perfection of everything, I was blessed with such an amazing thing, and I don't take that for granted. So, I don't. There isn't anything that you could have told me because it would have changed the course of my path to what I, may not have had today. So,
beautiful answer.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's heartfelt but honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of what you want to be in life.
Sure.
Yeah, this is who I am. That's fantastic, dude. Shane, thank you so much for your time. Again, for those tuned in who made it this far, we thank you. But people want to follow you. All of your social handles are
at TShane Johnson.
At TShane Johnson.
You got it.
So that's Instagram, Facebook,
Everything.
the whole kit and caboodle.
You got it.
Services that you provide outside of you running, which it's interesting because you don't plug it, you don't talk about it, but this is the Loan Officer Podcast. You are a loan officer, but outside of that, do you have a platform for loan originators or sales professionals to receive coaching from a program that you are a part of or sponsor, or not yet?
Yeah, I do. I mainly what I do is I'll go into an organization, let's say for the sake of conversation, a mortgage company, and I'll go in and I rally troops. I'm a good internal speaker. I come in and talk about, because I do have the industry knowledge and I am active in applications, and I'm a little bit more organic and authentic to the bigger guys that probably haven't touched the 1003 in a long time. So that's really what I like to do. As far as coaching, I do coaching. It's kind of high ticket coaching because I do more company consulting, and because my bandwidth again is a little challenging when it comes to the speaking and the traveling, and of course being a dad first. So, but absolutely, if you want me to come in and talk to your team and have them breaking necks and cashing checks, I'm the guy you call in to do that. If you want your realtor partners, a lot of times companies call in and they'll have a group with their realtor partners, and I'll come in and talk about living the life and the business of their dreams, personal development, encouraging them. I come in and I do that a lot, actually. And then of course, if you want a phenomenal marketing project where it allows you to have driven content that's authentic and customer, from your consumer to your partners to your internal organization, then you get behind my hikes or my world record breaks, and that allows you to drive that content to talk about what you're a part of as well.
Awesome. That is fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, he is TShane Johnson. I am Dustin Owen. You have tuned into the Loan Officer Podcast. Unfortunately for you and unfortunately for me, that's all the time we have. But if we're so fortunate, I'm going to throw it out in the universe for John Coleman. One day, I'm going to get Waterstone to bring you in. Sure. Solely so I can do another podcast with you. Right? We're going to get you paid. We're going to get Waterstone to benefit from all of your knowledge, right? All of your experiences. And you and I can do another show. But for now, that's all the time we have. Check us out, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all of the socials. Check him out. Thank you for tuning in. We've got to go. Peace.